Now, something is happening in this country. People are just feeling like they are just every left, right, and center, it's tax. There was news the other day. At now, you are growing cabbage.
You sell your cabbage for 100 shillings. Better remove 5 shillings and keep it aside. Because?
Sakayo. Nataka tax. Wamekata. There are some 8 Kenyans who have sued President William Ruto's government for wage slavery. That's what they're calling it, which they say has been orchestrated by too many taxes and levies introduced with reckless abandon, and they want the court to cap the taxes and levies that can be imposed on an individual at 20% and 30% for corporate. So they say all those taxes that I pay, they should not exceed 20%, even I'm an individual. What taxes are those? One of those 8 Kenyans is here with us in the studio. His name is Kinuthia. Fanya Mambo Kinuthia.
Yes, that's my name. Thank you, and a very good morning to you.
Welcome to Kenya's biggest conversation.
I'm happy to be here. I'm honored to be here on the very first day of the year. It's a beautiful place. It's a studio I've always wanted to be at. And I'm happy because the conversations here are the kind of conversations that shape this country.
That's the hot seat of the situation.
Yes.
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 Why Fanya Mambo? Is that your actual name? Like Majina ya M-Pesa?
Those are my names on my ID. If you try sending some M-Pesa, it will give you those names.
That you gave yourself or that your father and mother gave you?
That life gave me along the way, and then I had to adopt them, make them part of my name. So yes, I am officially Fanya Mambo Kinuthia.
All right, so what did you do with your name?
Which Mambo
What did you Fanya?
The original name, Fantas.
What Mambo?
What did you do with it?
I always say this. People define you by the way they look at you.
Yeah.
You have the people, their nicknames that just come from what you do and how you behave and how you are. So people looked at me and called me Fanya Mambo. It's a name I resisted for some time. Then along the way I said there's nothing wrong with this name. It stuck so well, and I decided, you know what, this name is actually me. It defines me, it looks like me, it smells like me. Why not have it on my ID? And yes, I did the deed poll, and the name is on my ID.
This is what people call me anyway.
Yes. And even if I go and tell people my name is Kinuthia, they don't want to hear.
Fanya Mambo.
They just call me Fanya Mambo. So
Why?
I'm happy to have that name.
What were you doing? Is
Everything
it that you
good.
kept asking people to Fanya Mambo, or is it that they expected you to Fanya Mambo?
No, I think they used to throw tasks at me that would happen, and then they would be like, yeah, he did it.
Got it
and
done.
then they would get me another one. And then got to a point where people used to think I know everything. Where I want to, they would ask me anything. They would call me to help them with everything, and they still do up to now. Do you know someone who does this? Do you know someone who can do this? So yes. So I am Fanya Mambo Kinuthia.
So you're the Mr. Fixer.
Yeah, we get things done.
Very good.
Yes.
To welcome you to the show, City has the day's Proverb. City, Fanya Mambo.
Couldn't resist, could you?
Well, why do you follow brother here?
Yeah?
Huduma Center.
Wow.
I would not be surprised if you went west and found somebody called
Huduma
Center.
Center. Our proverbs for the whole of this week come from the country of Kenya. Si lazima kuzima taa ya mwenzako ili yako ionekane.
Si lazima kuzima taa ya mwenzako ili yako ionekane. So first of all, Kinuthia, translate this into English and then give us your interpretation of it.
For your light to be seen, you don't have to dim the lights of others. Yes. Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
What's the interpretation?
My interpretation is there are people who think that the reason they are where they are is because others are up there. So you tend to think you have problems because others have money. And you know, this narrative went on for a long time, even during elections, where people were saying you are poor because some people are rich. And we are going to make sure we pull down the rich for you to become poor. It doesn't work that way. I think in all spheres of life, if you work for what you want, you will get what you want, and you will go to where you want to. And you don't necessarily have to create a roadblock for others so that you can succeed. I mean, they are where they are. I always say this. If you wanted to be a billionaire tomorrow, Central Bank will not go and print more money so that you become a billionaire, so that it's available for you. You will work with what is available and you'll still become a billionaire. So you don't need to fight others to go. I was saying this on Radio Maisha, your sister station this morning, and I was telling them, so he was asking me, am I in for a seat? And I said yes. And then he started asking, you want to remove the incumbent? I told him no. It's a 100-meter race. I'm on my lane, they're on their lanes. And
Yes.
everybody's target is the finish line. So as long as I don't walk into their lane and they don't walk into mine, somehow we will win this race. So I think that you don't need to be an obstacle to others' development for you to be successful.
Well said. Fanya Mambo, you're a lawyer
Yes, I
by
am.
training.
Yes, I am.
Are you an advocate by practice?
No.
Okay.
I went into something very beautiful. I do mediation arbitration. I run a firm called Kilimani Mediation Center. And all we do is help people resolve their disputes out of court. And corporates have chosen us. They're happy. They've had advocates on roll for a long time, and they found themselves in cases that don't come to an end at the end of the time. So they decided before we move into litigation, we will always try mediation. It is working. It is the future of law.
Hii mambo ni kuongea.
Yes, let's, this company has been your supplier or something. You've had a relationship of some sort. Why are you going to court with them? To explain to a judge the difference between the two of you, and that's a third party who has to understand it and then make a decision. You can sit with Fanya Mambo and we come up with an agreement that works. So I do law, but I do mediation, I do arbitration.
Okay.
Yeah.
But yet you've gone to court.
Yes, we have
You and
gone to
8
court.
others.
We have gone to court because justice be our shield and defender. It gets to a point, there are things that cannot be mediated. A relationship between people, a relationship between companies can be mediated. But when you have someone who is bent on making your life impossible, then justice be our shield and defender. We have to go to court. Yes. Even God himself takes only 10% and is the creator of the universe. Where are we having governments taking 50, 60%? At some point I said something that really trended. Let them take the salaries, we take the salary. I mean the taxes.
The tax.
Because it appears the taxes are more than the salary. So we'll donate the salary to the government and we take the taxes happily. I mean, it's better.
So give us the background of these people who've gone to court. Who are they and how did you think of going to court?
To start with, we are a group of people called Mount Kenya Jurists. We are lawyers. We are people in the space of law who felt that things are not going right. Actually, we gave the bombers expedition some time to see if it would have come out with something that would help Kenyans, only to realize that the cost of living was not featured therein. And so we said, unfortunately, the bulk of the members of parliament and senators and elected leaders from Mount Kenya region have not been seen to be fighting for us, I would say. And they needed to have a voice out there. And also Kenyans were saying, so who will speak on taxation? Because truth be told, you work here. I mean, the bulk of you woke up very early. Probably by 4 a.m. you were out of your beds. And then when you work so hard, there's someone who is also planning for your salary. So you are earning your 10, 20,000. You've made your plan for it. This is what I'm going to do with my 20,000 for this month. And then there's someone seated at State House using somebody who is also called leader of majority and tell him, go to parliament and propose. Now, this is what we are going to do with his salary. We are going to hive off another 5,000 from his salary. The sanctity of the salary must be there. We must get to a point where we say, wait a minute, I am the one who earns this money, and I was earning it for my daughter. If you ask me between building those houses you're imagining you want to build for me and me buying a white dress for my daughter, my priority is buying a white dress for my daughter. My daughter wants a white dress. Don't ask me why. But she wants a white dress. And I'm working as the father to buy her a white dress. My son wants a tennis ball. That is why I'm working, to buy my son a tennis ball, not to build your manifesto. Nobody asked you to campaign and give us a manifesto. That was your business. And the constitution is more supreme than your manifesto. And if we have to choose between the constitution and that manifesto of yours, for sure Kenyans will go for the constitution.
I see here some clash in thinking between individual and public. What's your thinking or understanding behind the principle of taxation? Is taxation important and why?
Taxation is important.
Why?
If your taxes are going to the right places. Taxation is important if your taxes are going to do the right things. We have been watching the news of late, and you've seen what the control of budget has told us about the amount of billions that have been going into travel and leisure and accommodation for these people. Why spend 139 billion in 1 year on leisure, accommodation, transport, and that for government officers, and then go and tax us to collect 70 billion to build houses? In fact, they should have just looked for 1 billion, add to the 139, they have double the 70 they needed, and use that to build double the number of houses if they needed to. Right now, we have a government that is evicting people from homes they have already afforded and putting them in the rain to build for them affordable housing. Look at the irony. You are evicting people from homes they've already afforded in Ngekumari and every other place. And then you are telling them, now we want to build for you affordable housing. So you build for me a tall house so that I can live somewhere in the air like a bird. I had always wanted to live in my own small house with my chicken outside. And I have never, in fact, it was never a dream for me that I would use an escalator to get to my house. Now you are putting me in a place where I have to use an escalator to get to my house. Kenyans did not ask for that. That was their idea as government. And so let them implement it through other means. Some of the affordable houses they are launching now were built by President Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta. We did not see this kind of taxation. We do not see people being evicted from where they were for those houses to be built. Why is it being done that way right now? So our petition still goes back to the issue of no new taxes. Actually, our idea was that until our matter is heard and determined, let there be no introduction of new taxes. Now people are taxing cabbages, surely. People are taxing you a chicken. They want to come and count your chicken and you pay 50 shillings for each chicken. They want to come and count your cows and goats and sheep. In fact, item number 4 in our petition is that KRA officials need to give you a 14-day notice before they come to your house. This is what we want the court to rule on. Because somebody just appears at your house and you have to stop everything you are doing because they think they are important and because they think they are KRA and they can come and count your chicken. In fact, they even introduce chicken diseases. When you look at those homes, there's a way we take care of our chicken, especially the broilers and these modern chicken. You don't just come and walk in and say, I'm in KRA, I have come in my official clothes and badges. They are infectious. You want to kill our chicken. So we give us 14 days, we prepare for you so that we have dust coats for you. We prepare the gumboots, we do everything. We sanitize you properly so that you can come and count our goats. And luckily, we probably have sold them before you count those ones. So, yes.
So, what's your petition? I'm not getting. Are you going to court to say that I do not want to be taxed?
No.
Are you going to court to say I do not want to be taxed more than what I pay currently?
What
are you going to court to say? What exactly?
We are saying, number 1, is that let there be no introduction of any other new tax until our petition is heard and determined. The reason we are saying this is because of predictability. You can't be waking up at 4 a.m. to work here, and the more you work, someone is planning for your salary. You had planned that you'd go home with 20,000. This month it goes 16. The next month is 12. The next month is 8. The next month is 7. Because the county government of Nairobi has decided that they have a new tax. Okay. The national government has decided they have a new tax. And it's on your salary. So when does your salary become yours? Okay. At what point do we draw the line and say this percent is sacred? Because if we don't do that, then a day will come when you work the whole month, you earn your salary and go home with 2,000 shillings. So because every new day there's a new tax.
Sure. So what is the petition? Because you've said that there should be no new taxes until this petition is heard and determined.
Yes.
So what is the petition?
The petition is, first is that we want a ceiling set as to what percent of your salary is taxable. As in up to what percent can they tax in direct taxation. Direct taxation, so that what is cut off from what you earn, let it be known and set and by law, so that the government, whatever they do, they don't go beyond that percentage.
And this direct taxation is what? From income. So from that's income tax, pay as you earn, or income corporation tax.
Whatever they call it, that if you earn 100,000, let it be clear that it is not more than 20% that has been taken away by whatever taxes. So they go and plan themselves within that 20%. This one we shall call it payee. This one we shall call it whatever.
But just know from that 100,000, you're only taking 20,000.
Yes, you're taking 20,000. So 20% of what you earn is what we are giving to the government. They can go and structure it and give it all the names they want to do, but that's their 20%. The 80% is sacred. It's my money for me and my children and my family. Yes.
Do we know what if we look at a total number, because we already know that by the time you finish pay, as you earn, etc., you're coming around about 31%, right?
Yes.
Currently.
Yes.
Has it gone beyond that?
Yes, it's
so
at 35% right now.
We're not right now at 35%.
Yes.
So you're left with 65%
Yes.
and climbing, according to what you're saying. This number should
You're left with less than 65%.
Yeah, that's what I said, and climbing, right? Because we're still looking at some percentages here and there.
The 35 is direct tax.
Yes.
Yes.
What is direct tax?
Direct tax means it was hived off from your salary before you even got your salary.
NSSF, all of these other things.
So when you get your pay slip, what you are left with after taxation is direct taxation. Like basically they've taken off everything, and now what you're left home, if you had 100,000, you're going home with 65,000.
Okay.
You've paid taxes to the tune of 35,000. But it's untrue. Because as I said, you people woke up very early this morning, and the minute you opened your tap to put in some water to boil for tea, that water is taxed.
Yep.
The milk is taxed. The tea leaves are taxed. The sugar is taxed. So by the time you are done with it, it's a cup of taxes, accompanied by a bread that is also taxed. So it was a cup of taxes accompanied by a taxed loaf. So in addition to the direct taxation that people don't see, there is a huge level of indirect taxation.
How much?
So what we usually end up giving government is unknown. That's the answer. Okay. Because the other day, Kimani Ichung'wah will walk to Parliament and decide that they've decided that fuel can go up by another 8% to 16%. And Parliament will come again and decide that they've added the tax. So what we are trying to cap for now is direct taxation.
Okay.
Because the indirect taxation, which I've explained in the cup of tea, now there's so many, is a cup of tax. There's so many other things that end up like that. I haven't spoken about your lunch.
So, okay, before we get to lunch, because, we still have some time, what would it look like in order for it to be balanced? Because you know what? Sometimes we get caught up in the foray, the emotional, romanticization of all of this. It sometimes feels really good to complain, isn't it? And even when we are justified to do so, but sometimes you feel good about it, right? We do. Now, what would make sense when we're looking at these taxes? Because like you've said, there are some countries who've declared it, that 50% of your tax is going to government. But at the same time, that never will you wake up in the morning and will there be a pothole on your road. Never will you wake up in the morning and switch on the lights and they don't go on. Never will you turn on your tap and water doesn't run. Never will any school tell you before your child is 18, bring $1 of school fees kind of thing. So you're guaranteed certain things. You walk into hospital, you'll be treated, etc. So let's come to Kenya and say, what would it look like for us to say, okay, actually, yes, we're comfortable. This 20% that you're talking about, to have all of these things done, roads, garbage picked up, city clean, all kinds of things. And let's just live in a state of utopia for 1 minute and we say that, corruption is on the low, all these things are happening. Would it be able to work with these numbers that we're talking about? Remove the sensitivity, remove the emotions, remove that side of it. And we said that, yes, what we're still headed for is a functioning government, is a functioning nation, whereby the people first have been taken care of, while you do your part of paying tax. Could the nation survive?
You see, for as long as we have cabinet looking the way it looks, Kenya will have the problems it has and more. And the reason I say this is because we have people who have programmed their mind to think that to run a nation and to run it effectively, what you need is taxes. We are one country that says we have the only national park in the capital
that runs
city.
through a city. Yes,
we have the Masai Mara, we have the wild beast migration, we have what are we doing to increase the amount of money we are getting from tourism? What are we doing to increase the amount of money we are getting from our coffee and our tea? We are not running government as business, and this is where we have a problem. So we keep looking at Mwananchi as the only source of income for government. And as long as we continue having this, and that's why I say fire this whole cabinet. Start getting people who can say, like right now there's rains, there's a lot of glut in terms of milk. Why are we not exporting milk? How much money would Kenya get from exporting milk? How much money would Kenya get? We are only thinking about the pocket of that person who is working, because we have people whose minds are not capable of thinking, and whatever you do, those minds will never be capable of thinking. Fire them tomorrow morning. And start hiring people who will take, before we raid into your pockets,
this is what else we can do.
This is how we can make money for this nation. This nation is not, China is not run so much on the taxes. It is run so much on what they produce and they sell out there. What are we producing? What are we selling? Why are we importing toothpicks 60 years after independence? And then you keep saying that you want to tax Kenyans. Why are you importing handkerchiefs? Why can't we make our own bicycles 60 years after independence? A lot of money, let me tell you, out of 10 shillings that a Kenyan earns, more than 5 shillings, we spend it outside the country. Because our handkerchief is from China, our toothpick. I made a mwiko in class 7 during art and craft. Today, the mwiko in the supermarket is made in China. So when you have this kind of thinking that government will make money from us so that it can build for us roads, fire that entire cabinet and remove the presidency if you must, so that we get people who will start thinking that it is possible for us to sell our milk to another country like Sudan and make money to build this nation. Yes. So I am not for the cap of taxes, and I will not allow anybody to have a conversation with me on how we are going to tax Kenyans more. We have to have a conversation about firing every minister who cannot think about how this country will bring in more money from outside of itself and stop spending what is, because there's no use of a country 60 years after independence is relying on underwear from other countries. We can't make our own underwear. What are we saying we have independence about? There's a lot of capital flight. The bulk of the money we are making here is also going outside. So let's contain our money inside and let's earn our own money. That way we shall build this nation. But taxing the same people who are jobless, it's not going to help us.
The government agrees with you. And that's why when it comes up with plans on how we can make our own underwears in this country. So currently we are at 35% of direct taxation.
Yes.
This is pay as you earn plus all those other things, which include the other levies, NHIF, NSSF, housing. What else is there?
I'm lucky not to have a pay slip. So,
Or there's NITA,
yes,
industrial training, and all those two things. All of them add up to 35%. So what argument are you using before court when you're saying cap it at 20? Why 20? Why not 25? Why not 19?
You see, the Constitution in Article 30 speaks about freedom from servitude. So we've become slaves in our own country if we are working for the government. We were supposed to work for... the reason my mom took me to school, she told me that when you grow up, you'll become what you want to be. You can become a lawyer, you can become a pilot, you can become a driver. And so that you can live a happy life from what you do in your profession. So I was not going to live a happy life by implementing the UDA manifesto. I was going to live a happy life by buying my son a school tie if he wants a school tie. I was going to live a happy life by being able to buy a football and going to the field and play with my son. Many Kenyans are not politicians. This is the kind of life they wanted. And so servitude means you are working for so many hours in a day, and what you are earning is not able to help you even meet your basic needs. You can't eat. Some Kenyans eat 1 meal a day, like an animal. So that is not acceptable. So Article 30 of our Constitution speaks of freedom from servitude, and that's why this petition is in court. Article 31 is about right to privacy. From A, B, C, all to D, the whole of Article 31. And so right to privacy, when you come to my home to count my chicken because you are KRA, yes, you are KRA, but this is my house. And since I have not killed anybody or committed any crime, I just reared chicken, and you want to come and count them. Then now they want to have a tax on cabbages. I just grew cabbages, which US government could not grow. Now you want to come and count my cabbages. At least have some decency to give me notice. Yeah, so that I prepare for you, so that we stop everything else, because you are so important for you to come and count my cabbages. So this petition is all about, it's a constitutional petition. It's not just a petition about anything.
And it's about rights.
It's also about rights, because then Article 28 talks about human eviction, human dignity. When you evict people from their houses, which they had afforded, to build what you think is affordable according to your yellow manifesto or wheelbarrow manifesto, what are you doing to Kenyans? Kenyans had their own manifesto for their lives, and their manifesto is more important than government manifesto. And as long as that manifesto is not happening in a way that is unconstitutional, if I didn't build my house by killing people or evicting others or stealing land, why do you want to come and build for me another one?
I understand what you're saying. I still want to go back to that question. So that's one of the things that you talked about. 20% of what you earn is what should go to government. You decide as government whatever you want to do with it, right?
Yeah.
What else should we want? to see, and I still go back to that, that then how should it look? What should it be like? What should it be like?
I'll tell you how it should look like. The Constitution is very clear on the rights of every Kenyan. We have a right to access to good roads, clean water, and so on and so forth. That's your duty as government. If you can, and it's very simple. We are not forcing you to be president. We are not forcing you to be in government. If you feel 20% is what your government cannot work with, there is the option of resignation. That government can resign and give government to people who can work with the 20%. That is possible. Yeah, it is very possible for someone else to come and say, even this 20% that you're giving to us as government is too much. We, in our wisdom, are still able to give you good roads and hospitals and everything with 15%. So all we are saying is someone should occupy the office of president. Someone should occupy political office, knowing that Kenyans are willing to give you 20% of their earnings in direct taxation.
Yeah, but
and you, if you feel that as a government official you can't work with 20%, don't go for that office. It's like being told to be a Catholic priest you have to be celibate, you're not going to marry. Don't go and then become a Catholic priest and then start saying, now I want to marry when I'm inside here, because you knew before you went in. So this is what we want to set as a trend, that anybody who occupies government will know that for you to be president in Kenya, we work under such limits.
Kinuthia,
Yes.
I'm asking, what is the formula for that arrives at 20%?
Our formula.
How did you get to 20%?
Well, I'll tell you. How we got to 20% was very simple. What do we want with our salary? Why do we work? Otherwise, we are going to resign. We want to have money at our disposal to do the things that matter to us, not the things that matter to government. And Kenyans have to get to a point where they put their lives before the lives of government.
Okay. What is the
So
life
what
of government?
matters
What do
to
you mean?
me as a Kenyan is I want what I earn is going directly into the things that are important to me as
Like?
a Kenyan. And I told you, to buy my son a tennis ball, there are Kenyans who don't...
Do you want your
what
son
I'm
to
trying
go to school?
What about
You see,
food?
we are already paying school fees for
No,
our children.
it's okay.
Yes.
You want your son to go to school.
Yes.
You want your son to go to school using a road. Is it
Yes.
your private road or public road?
It's a public road.
You want your son to access other services.
Yes.
Are there services that are public that you want your son to access?
Yes.
How do you want to finance those?
I'll tell you. It's very simple. That's why I started by saying direct taxation, and then we have indirect taxation. A clever government can deal with the other things through indirect taxation. They will still get my money anyway. They will still go and add 5 shillings to the tea leaves. They will still go and add 5 shillings to the milk. But what we are trying to do is for certainty purposes. I don't want to go to my bank today, take a loan of 100,000 or 200,000 and then come and renegotiate with them 6 months down the line because the salary I was earning has been affected by government and they did not consult me or my bank. I had taken a loan and I told the bank I can comfortably pay you 20,000 a month, and then now government comes and reduces the 20,000 that I would have paid per month to another 13 or 12, so I have to start looking for 8,000, and I start doing other things and reporting to work late because I was selling mitumba at night. What we need to do is to create that certainty that what is taxable direct is this amount of money. We are not affecting indirect taxation. And again, we have also made it very clear that government must not only make roads because they taxed us. After all, what is the working population in Kenya? What is the percentage of people who are on formal payroll? It is very little. So this taxation is unfair to the teachers, is unfair to the few, that percentage of Kenyans that is working in formal sector where the money is deducted from the salary. We have to think of other ways to run government other than taxing people.
Which are?
And governments are doing it. I have already given examples. Germany is succeeding because they sell Mercedes to us.
Germany does not
Japan-
manufacture Mercedes. A
They- it
company
comes
in
from
Germany manufactures Mercedes.
Yes, but government taxes those vehicles before they leave
So
that
there's
place.
taxation again.
It's taxation. But on what? On what? On products that are leaving the country.
So
what
the
we
source,
are doing
the
here,
source of government money is tax.
but not necessarily
Not
raising
business.
people's salaries.
But is there any country on this planet that doesn't tax its people?
We are not saying, and this is where people fail to understand us. We are not saying that we do not want to be taxed. What we are saying that it is possible to run government by looking for money from any other sources other than killing people with taxation. What we have now is servitude, where people work and then at the end of the month they don't have anything left to even develop themselves. And when you think about where the money is going, for example, now when you think about the 3% that is going to housing, for example, If you research on how much government takes from one bag of cement or from one iron sheet, you realize that if you reduce the cost of cement, the cost of iron sheet and timber and everything, we shall build our own houses for ourselves. The reason why houses are being called unaffordable is because the things that we use to build those houses have already been made so expensive by government taxes. If we reduce the cost of cement, if we reduce the cost of timber, if we reduce the cost of this building, because how is government houses affordable? They are still buying cement at very expensive rates and building. It is affordable because it is being taken from people's pockets and built for other people. And then these people are being told to occupy these houses. Lower the cost of cement, lower the cost of timber, lower the cost of nails. We shall build our own houses for ourselves. We've always done it. All the houses built in Kenya since independence were not built by government.
Okay. We have a population of what, 53 million?
Yes.
Kenya Bureau of Statistics tells us that of these 19 million are in employment. Around 15 million are in employment in the informal sector. Only 3 point something percent are in the formal sector. Okay? So even if you're in the informal sector and your salary is below the threshold that is actually taxable, the informal taxes will get you. Okay? So in short, everybody gets taxed. Because the topic of taxation in this country cannot be had without looking at where we are and where we get our money from. The moment you enter that particular sphere of borrowing from international lenders, then a lot of what you're going to end up doing have nothing to do with what you want to do. It is what they tell you to do and how they go about telling you to do it. Now, whether everything the government does is in line with what they were told to do, but the truth of the matter is that these are experiences we've had before, what we call structural adjustment programs from the Bretton Woods institutions. And if you look across this continent, I'm not going to go to another continent. Well, I should. Because if I look at a country like Greece and what they went through when they went to these same institutions, they tax the living daylights out of the citizens. We are in a situation that perhaps we haven't experienced before, and there's a generation that does not know how exactly these institutions work. An older generation, which is represented by an ancient creature like myself, we understand this full well because it is our lived experience. Now, we cannot have that discussion without it. The other discussion we must have is the pain that you feel is your taxes are supposed to go towards certain things that the government is mandated to do for us. And when they don't do it, you then dig into your pocket to fund the very same things that the government was supposed to have done. So you then question the reason why it is you're paying those taxes when you're still having to pay for them again. Now, with this matter that you've taken to court, what is the prayer? What is it that you want the court to afford you? And if they do afford you, what will it achieve?
Okay, I think I had listed them. The first one as I said, is we don't want new taxes being implemented anyhow. You wake up in the morning, there's a new tax, because then you're not you can't plan your life that way. You can't plan even for your old plan and retirement and everything. When you wake up in the morning, there's a house tax, there's a cabbage tax, there's a cow tax, there's a monkey tax, there's a dog tax. So that needs to stop. We need to have taxes being predictable. Let there be, at least even have a time frame and say, maybe at the beginning of the financial year, that's when the new taxes will be introduced and debated in Parliament.
Are you suggesting that there should be public participation before we are taxed?
In fact, our public participation is not so good because sometimes we do it and then nothing that is captured in public participation ends up there. For example, who said they want the cost of electricity to go up? But there was public participation and it went up. And so public participation sometimes is not helping us. They bring it there as a show. But I don't remember a Kenyan raising their hand and saying, yes, I want the cost of fuel to go up. But they usually say they did public participation. So number two, we were saying, so other than the new taxes, we were talking about the KRA officials coming to your home and giving you a notice. Let them not just come arbitrarily, because then it creates resentment and hatred towards these people. You're just coming anyhowly, I'm doing what I'm doing. I have to stop everything and accommodate you and allow you to start counting my cows, my chicken, and so on and so forth. The other one we were talking about was we did not want adoption of the Bomas report. I think I mentioned that because one of the things it was supposed to have done using our money was to come up with measures on cost of living, which it never did. So discussing it and adopting it is useless for Kenyans. It is only good for politicians because it is being discussed on those matters that are good for the politicians. Then we said we had talked about evictions in that petition. Like, we do not want the Gekamori evictions to go on, where people are being evicted from houses they have afforded and they have title and sanctity of titles they have actually borrowed with. In fact, some of these people will tell you, and they have said it on national TV severally, that to even build there, they had to get permits from the county government, and they paid for those permits. They have borrowed loans using those title deeds, and those title deeds are in the banks. Now, then you come and tell them that you want to evict them from there and build for them other affordable houses. It doesn't make sense. So our petition is on all those things.
Fanya
But
Mambo.
the principal one is on taxation.
Fanya Mambo.
Yes.
This issue of evictions is a really thorny one, and I personally feel the utmost pain one can feel on other people's behalf. But many of these evictions are on properties that we are informed or we're told these people who are living had no right to live in the first place. Now, what is the government supposed to do in such situations? Today we're reading about one particular family that owns a huge tract of land. They're saying they're not really this thing of evicting people. Yeah, Taita Taveta people are evicted. The Karima family that was saying they don't particularly want to evict. They're seeing this, they find a way around it. The one which happened here, just in our neighbor Okoh here, in that
EAPCC, Portland.
yes. Now the government, that's government property really. Now you wonder, your argument would fall squarely within that. That was already government land. The government had a say. Should the government not have considered other means other than the eviction? I mean, what I'm saying is, I hear what you're saying. But again, for a conversation to make sense, we must look at the bigger problem. How did we get to a position where people were building on land that they shouldn't have built in the first place? Because that is an issue.
I think my explanation is simple. The sanctity of title. When these people come with a title deed that went through the entire government process for them to have them, and when the county government comes and levies them money you pay for the permit to construct, and there are schools there, and there are hospitals there, like what you saw in Mavoko, and there are churches there, and these people have paid every license they needed to pay to be existing, and the county government is perpetually and continually collecting license fees from these people. How then do you come and tell them that they're in the wrong place? Why would you license someone to build in a place as a county government, knowing that that is government land? So I think what needed to happen is what I studied in Tanzania. I started my law degree here for 2 years, Catholic University, and finished at University of Dar es Salaam. And there's something they called land regularization. You get to the point where you say, this is where we are. Okay. So moving forward, we will not allow horrible things to happen.
Yes.
But from where we are, those people who are on government land, they even came on national TV and said, if there is an amount we can pay, and we are given up, we shall pay.
They did.
Yes. So what we need to do is to do what Tanzania did. And that's why they are a very peaceful nation. You do land regularization, where you say, from what has happened, it won't happen again. But from where we sit, it will be more expensive. Now we've lost a lot more billions in evicting those people in terms of how do you even take your kids to school and you're outside in the rain? So we do regularization. We make them pay for that. Government still owns a lot of land. Compensate East Africa Portland with any other land and so on and so forth using that money, but do not cause human suffering in the interest of trying to acquire back land.
So you can start a theft knowing that there'll be regularization of that theft.
No. You see, I have always said this. Sometimes as a nation, you look at what is meaningful. And when you talk about, for example, human dignity in Article 28 of the Constitution, you cannot start saying about tomorrow. You have to think about now. And human dignity right now dictates that don't throw a man and their children outside in the rain in the name of acquiring land for a Portland company. I mean, all they mind is that pozzolana, which can be found in many other parts of...
Wakili, this is a sensitive issue.
Yes.
But there are certain realities that as Kenyans we must face. It's a matter we discuss at great length here. the notices that were provided, people being warned. There are many things, there are many stories that we've heard about this. We Kenyans also have a tendency of liking to take shortcuts. We perhaps get duped. And there are those who argue that it is easy to convince someone to do wrong when they're already inclined towards it. Okay? I agree. There should be a humane way of dealing with such matters. Now, was that matter handled in the best way possible? I think not. How do you cure Kenyans from taking steps where inevitably, remember it started off with people building on road reserves. Remember that one?
Yes. And railway reserves.
Yes, and railway reserves, and everybody has reserves. Now we've got a situation where we are being told that in the Ministry of Land, you even find leases being changed, titles being changed, all manner of things happening. Leases that should be automatically be renewed. Suddenly finds people are in your compound because they say your lease has come to an end. I'm simply saying there's a lot that you hear and you wonder, surely. Now, what you're saying makes sense. But if you regularize, as you say, what message are you saying to other people who are that way inclined towards doing, or the squatters who are inclined towards occupying other people's land?
I have always asked only one question. If a private company came and took 2,000 acres of land and fenced them, and they were selling each parcel to any person who comes as long as they pay, do you think it is possible that a person will come and acquire a parcel of land in that private, say Vipingo or wherever, or Thika Greens, in a corrupt way? Do you think it is possible for someone to come, for example, and own a piece of Thika Greens without the management knowing, or without them knowing, or without them having sold?
Yeah.
If you were to build 52 apartments here, do you think it is possible that one unit will be occupied by somebody and you don't know, and you are the one who is selling the 52 apartments? It only happens in government. What am I trying to say? We have the wrong managers. If you put the right, and I said here, if you put the right minister for land, if you put the right people in the right places, in the right spaces of government, what will happen is that ultimately nothing will go wrong. Because I am telling you, it is, have you ever heard of ghost workers here at Spice FM? How many do you have?
Yes, we have.
Yes.
Ghost workers.
Yes, in
being
standard.
paid.
We've heard of people telling us we have ghost workers.
But-
we can't claim to have seen the ghost ourselves.
yes.
But if you're talking about hearing, we have heard.
You've heard. But
Yes.
what we are trying to say is that exactly, that in a private entity, it is extremely hard to hear that somebody built 60
There are more
apartments for
controls
sale,
that work.
and one of the apartments is being lived by somebody, and that person didn't pay for them, and he owns it, and he's
So
there.
because the controls or the systems are in place that would disallow such behavior is what you're saying.
You put complacent people to achieve what you want to put, to
It
achieve.
sounds to me like your petition, Kinuthia, is more of seeking the attention of the public towards certain matters. Because this is it's an omnibus of an application.
It is.
On one hand, you're talking about tax and tax capping on tax. That is touching on one particular piece of legislation. On another one, you're talking about KRA and its own internal procedures on how they come to you and when they should come. That's another piece of legislation. You're talking about evictions. That's another piece of legislation. And then all of them, you're touching on the Bill of Rights and various articles of the Bill of Rights. It's I don't know. This just sounds like just an omnibus thing that you've thrown to the courts so that it then gets public attention. Do you really expect
To what end?
something to come out of this?
If unfortunately we are looking for public attention, there are many other things we could do, including going to the streets and doing some funny things.
Tying
we can
yourself
do.
to the gates of
tying
Parliament.
ourselves to our gates of parliament and so on and so forth. That's not what we are looking for.
What do
That's
you
why
want
we went
here?
to the courts. What we want, as I said, and I'll keep repeating, is we want certainty. We want to be able to plan our money. We don't want to wake up tomorrow morning, there's a cabbage. That's why I said the first item on the taxation issue is we do not want the introduction of any new taxes in Kenya right now. Because you cannot have a situation where in
and
5
right now
years
is how,
you
in
have
how long?
Yeah?
Right now is
Unfortunately, there's something we are fighting, because when we filed under certificate of urgency, it's the first time we are seeing a constitutional petition filed under certificate of urgency being given a mention after 6 months, because this is going to be in June. So we are already fighting that, because government wants to continue collecting money from Kenyans arbitrarily and introducing new taxes by the time June is here. So and maybe to the people in this room, it may look like an omnibus, but to every other Kenyan out there, they are saying, "Enyewe ile shida
all one
niko
and the
nayo, I have gone to a SACCO, I have asked for a loan, we have agreed on the terms and how much I'll be paying them, and then you wake up one morning and the next thing you know is your salary has reduced. And now you have to go and renegotiate with the SACCO and tell them, wait a minute, when we started, this is how things were. And then in May, there was this new tax, my salary reduced. In July, there was this new tax, my salary reduced. In December, they're proposing another one, my salary is going to reduce, so you have to negotiate again with the SACCO. We want that certainty of knowing that my taxes is capped at this for direct taxation.
Fanya, Mambo, Kinuthia, thank you very much for joining us.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.